Hello, 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 hello. Hello chat, j'espère que vous allez bien. Aujourd'hui, on va chill, hein. On va regarder du Pokémon, mais on va pas regarder, je pense, des compétitions ou quoi que ce soit. On va regarder des trucs chill. Ok, est-ce que ça veut ou pas? On m'entend? Ok, on m'entend. C'est good, c'est good, c'est good. Alors. Que peut-on regarder les kids? Run and Bun. C'est connu, mais quoi? Hmm. Pourquoi il y a NBA 2K? 15 ans que j'ai pas regardé une vidéo d'NBA 2K. Hmm. Pokémon, hein. Mais il a pas. On va descendre. Hop. Bizarre, bizarre. Lille, on a déjà vu. On a déjà vu le régional de Lille. T'es au team. Ah, j'ai une petite Timothée pendant 15 minutes là dans la vidéo, c'est chaud. Hmm. Et bah, ça servait de trouver une truc bien. Meeting Emerald. Hmm. Ouh, ça c'est bien. C'était le meilleur truc au monde, le Pokéwalker. Faut qu'il le refasse, faut qu'il le refasse, faut qu'il refasse un Pokéwalker parce que vraiment, c'était le meilleur truc de l'univers.
After cleaning up in the fire red trash lock, my sights turned to Johto, a region known for its gimmicks. You can get unique Pokemon from headbutting special trees at night. There's Pokemon gifted to you only if you've soft-locked yourself. There's track and field events. There's Pokemon exclusive to Days
Pokémon
of
Nerd
the
Gold
Week. But for
et
me,
Soul Silver,
I'll be
c'était vraiment
tackling a
trop bien.
challenge no other Nuzlocker has dared approach. I'm challenging myself to beat a Nuzlocke of every region, each with its own unique gimmick. For Johto, I'm doing a Walker Lock, which I've made up, where I can only use Pokemon obtained from the Pokewalker. There are 8 routes available on the Pokewalker. I'll use one of them before each gym. So now instead of Fire Red's quantity over quality, I now only have 8 Pokemon, all of which I need to make the most of to make it through. Here's the rules just in case you've forgotten. If any Pokemon get knocked out, they're gone for good. I can't use any items during battle, and I'm not allowed to go over the level of the next gym leader's Pokemon.
Ok.
With that out of the way,
Ok, ça va être compliqué quand même. Parce que vu qu'il peut pas être over level, il a quand même de la chance.
Soul Silver, the start is pretty slow. For our starter, I go with Cyndaquil. While it won't be a part of our team, it does influence what starter our rival will have, which is now Totodile. I am stuck with Cyndaquil until we get Pokeballs though, which doesn't happen until after we go to Cherry Grove, unlocking the running shoes, going north and getting the mystery egg from Mr. Pokemon,
having our first rival fight,
which is a breeze since we had a chance to level up a few times before it, and finally returning the egg to Professor Elm. After that, we get the catching tutorial and are set loose on the world. To get started, I do need to catch a Pokemon. It'll be used to send to the Pokewalker. Consider it a sort of HM slave of sorts. And then we get to walking. Here's a quick rundown on how the Pokewalker works. It's a pedometer, counting your steps by using movement, because this is before GPS pedometers were the norm. Every 20 steps you take, you earn 1 Watt. Watts are the currency you use to encounter a Pokemon, find an item, and unlock new routes. After taking 200 steps, I can use the 10 Watts I earned to catch a Pokemon. But it's not that simple. Some Pokemon can only be encountered after taking a certain amount of steps that day.
Un Onix, ça serait pas mal en vrai.
On this first route, called Refreshing Field, you start out only finding Pidgey and Sentret. After 500 steps, you can find male or female Nidoran. After 2,000 steps, Doduo, and after 3,000, Kangaskhan. You probably don't need me to tell you which of these Pokemon is the best encounter here. This is usually how it'll be. Stronger Pokemon take more steps, so I can't just bang out 200 steps and be out of here. On the flip side though, if there is ever a Pokemon I don't want that takes a lot of steps, I can just take it out of the encounter pool by not taking that many steps. Kind of like repel nipping. More pressing though is over the course of this playthrough, I need to take a total of 60,000 steps to unlock all 8 routes, not counting any Watts I use up to catch Pokemon. So I'm gonna be a busy boy. By the end of this first walk, I've hit the 3,000 steps I need to add Kangaskhan to the encounter table and roll the dice. Wrestling through the ground, the first encounter is Doduo. The way battles work on the Pokewalker is kind of like rock, paper, scissors.
Doduo en vrai ça va, il a un type vol du coup.
Possible results. But for us, it basically means keep attacking until the opponent's at 2 bars of health, and then chuck a ball. I've also allowed in the rules that if the Pokemon gets away, I can encounter another one, because otherwise this would be brutal. But in this case, we catch the Doduo, and then transfer it back into the game. This also locks in any extra Watts we've earned to put towards the next route unlock. So, Doduo is definitely the second best encounter we could have gotten here. Doduo is usually a late game Pokemon, not even appearing in Heart Gold until the post game. For an unevolved Pokemon, it has decent stats, working as a sort of glass cannon. More than anything though, it gets the move Rage, which is one of the best moves for early game Johto. And you'll find out why soon. You'll probably notice that Doduo doesn't have a nickname. You're actually not given the option to nickname when catching a Pokemon from the Pokewalker, so we'll have to wait for the name raider. With Doduo on our side, the gauntlet of top percentage Rattata and Pidgey
bon.
stand no chance.
Doduo en vrai c'est un bon starter.
This stays true through Sprout Tower. Turns out Bellsprouts don't like taking pecks, and the only Pokemon that dares to survive a hit is the final Sage's Hoot Hoot.
Il aurait pu avoir pire quoi.
Splash, which I'll admit I don't even remember if it's required for this game. And that leaves us with the first gym leader, Faulkner. Now usually this is a pretty difficult fight. You're dealing with a Pidgeotto 5 levels below its regular evolution level, and so Geodude is usually a must-have catch in normal Nuzlocke, but since we don't have that, we have to improvise. The big thing we're going to take advantage of for most gym leaders is that usually they don't lead with their ace. By leading with a fast Doduo Rage attack, any tackles that the weaker Pidgey sends our way essentially raises our attack by 1 level. Even though it doesn't give you the regular animation that you would normally get raising your attack, it's the same effect. It only takes 2 rages to knock Pidgey out, so now we get to go into the threat Pidgeotto with our attack already raised. This allows us to just barely 2-shot Pidgeotto with quick attack, not risking any deaths to a critical hit. Get intimately familiar with the strategy, you're gonna see it a lot. That earns us our first badge, and believe it or not, the Roost TM, perfect for our Doduo here. And it's time for our second Pokemon. This time
Je
we're
me
taking
souvenais
a
même
walk
plus
through
que
the noisy forest.
le
Here's
premier
the available
Pokémon.
Pokemon, lots of bugs and grass types with the oddity of Wobbuffet as the only rare encounter. Personally, if I were to choose, I do want that Wobbuffet. This time I chose to catch the Pokemon in the comfort of my own home because it felt a little awkward to just stand on the road pointing my phone at a Pokewalker. And this time we get Paris. Not my first choice, or my
c'est
second,
chaud.
or my third.
C'est
but
pas
I'll
ouf, c'est
take
pas
it.
ouf.
Paris has one very obvious benefit. The move Spore, the only 100% accurate sleep move in the game. It also comes with the ability Dry Skin, so it can absorb any water type moves we come across. Other than that, though, it can't do much of anything until it evolves. Before heading south to the next town, gotta remember to grab the Rock Smash HM from this random guy over here, and then we're off. On the way down Route 32, we make sure to grab a free Miracle Seed, useful if Paris ever learns a grass type move. And funny enough, the TM for Bullet Seed is at the bottom of the route, which I will be giving to Paris. Otherwise, the first grass move we'd learn is Giga Drain at level 33. We also find a Shell Bell, which
Ah ouais,
goes right
faut
onto
qu'il attende le
Doduo.
level
I
43.
was excited to have Paris for Union Cave. Doduo absolutely wouldn't have been able to deal with the Geodudes or
40 or
Onyx here.
30?
Come to find out, there
Je crois que
actually
c'était
isn't
43.
a single required battle here. Huh. Before
43,
we're allowed to challenge the second gym, we have to clear Team Rocket out of Slowpoke Well. This is how every single Team Rocket segment is going to go. We're going to slaughter 10 to 20 Zubats and Rattatas that are under half of our level cap and move on. It's never any different. All of the Team Rocket segments are such a slog. The boss's lead Pokemon is a level 8 Zubat. Now on to the real challenge. Bugsy here is going to be one of the most challenging fights of the game thanks to his ace, Scyther, who for some reason comes out first. Unfortunately, Paris here won't be able to do too much in this fight thanks to it being weak to bug moves, but what it can do is bait out a U-turn, which Doduo can come in to eat up, while Bugsy swaps to the significantly weaker Metapod. And now you already know what's up. We're rage boosting off of this Metapod. I carefully swap between using Rage and Healing with Roost to whittle down Metapod low enough for Bugsy to use his Super Potion, not only denying it for the Scyther, but also extending the time we have to build up even more Rage boosts. I finished Metapod off with +3 attack, which should be more than enough to one-shot Scyther. You're gone.
Oh!
That's actually insane. Or so I
Survie.
thought. Luckily, with the Shell Bell equipped, I for sure won't die to a damage range, but I will go down to a crit. And no matter what, I can't outspeed with Quick Attack because Scyther outspeeds us and uses a Quick Attack of its own. And we made it.
Survie.
The remaining Kakuna is just a victory lap. Barely squeezed through that one, all thanks to Dodo. That earns us the U-turn TM. Okay, the TMs they give you at the gyms in this game are crazy.
Twix KO. Toujours pas regarder le jeu, s'il est bien ou pas.
At this
Ça
point,
m'intéresse pas.
I'm not going for specific walks with the Pokewalker. I'm just taking it everywhere I go, letting the steps build up passively, and catching a Pokemon once I'm satisfied. Here on Rugged Road, we have a good variety of Pokemon, all with
là,
plenty
en
of
vrai,
potential.
un
I think the only one I'd be disappointed to get
Machoke
is Hoot.
ou
And
Onyx,
the one we
même
land on
Magby,
is
c'est pas mal.
Magby. Now, don't let the fact that it's a baby Pokemon fool you. It's got great damage potential, and comes with Sunny Day, shoring up its weakness to water types. Biggest downside is having to wait all the way until level 30 to evolve. I've also decided that I'm not going to include trade evolutions.
Okay.
No Magmortar. Not that I could get the Magmarizer before post-game anyway. I might allow trade evolutions for future runs.
Ouais, Magmar, c'est ok.
Before we're allowed to leave town, we have to win our first real
On
battle
peut mettre
against
l'évolurock,
our rival,
hein.
and even though we took down the gym
S'il met
first,
l'évolurock,
our
il est
level
pas mal.
margin is still pretty tight. The next level cap is only 19. This is the perfect chance for our Magby to show what it can do. It's my choice to match up with the lead Ghastly, mostly because after it knocks it out, it baits in Croconaw. Clearly, the Croconaw would want to use a water-type move on us, which gives us a free switch over to Paris, who can absorb the water move with Dry Skin. Now we can safely put the Croconaw to sleep with Spore and bully it to death. Except, Walker chooses to switch to Zubat. Luckily, this Zubat doesn't have any flying-type moves, so I can take the opportunity to put it to sleep as well. There's no sleep clause in the streets. Then I swap to Magby to secure the knockout. Unfortunately, Zubat gets an early wake-up and burns itself on Magby's flame body, and I go right back to Paris. Even though Paris doesn't have anything to deal substantial damage to Zubat, Zubat also has no good options for Paris, and the burn chip damage is more than enough to make up the difference. Then the Sleep Crocodile comes back out, and it's no problem
Bullet
to
Seed.
off with Bullet
One
Seed.
shot.
Now we have entry into Ilex Forest. After a quick completion of the Farfetch'd puzzle, if you didn't know, you can head back to Azalea Town to grab a free charcoal. It's going right on
Ah,
Magby.
c'est pas
A
mal.
little farther into Ilex
Sur
Forest,
Magby.
there's a move tutor for Headbutt.
Ça
and
augmente
this
les attaques feu,
is
du coup,
Magby's
en vrai, il est pas
strongest
mal.
attack until he gets a better fire move. Believe it or not, between Azalea Town and Goldenrod City, other than the rival fight, there's not a single required battle, which is starting to be a bit of a trend. As much as I'd love to spend 10 hours at the game corner for 1 TM, I'm locking it off until I beat the gym here. Speaking of, here we are. Normal types are going to be pretty difficult to deal with because I have no way to deal
normal,
super
ouais.
effective damage.
Il y a
This is
son...
proven by
C'est
me
elle qui a
almost
le
getting taken out by
créneau
a
qui...
random trainer getting crits with Slash, just to find out afterwards that the battle wasn't even required. So, that was fun. Whitney here marks the end of the starting gauntlet. We get a bit of a break after this, but until then, we need to use 3 cheap advantages we have to win this fight. First, Clefairy enjoys using Metronome, but thanks to us having Roost, there's very few possibilities that could outdamage our healing, even if it rolls a Rock-type move. Number 2, the Clefairy also has the move Attract and the ability Cute Charm, usually dealing with the infatuation as annoying.
Ouais, mais c'est un duo femelle,
we're
du coup,
immune
c'est
thanks
rien
to
qui
being a
passe.
female. I say luckily, but Pokemon from the Pokewalker actually always have the same gender, so every Doduo you get from Refreshing Fields will be female. And number 3, you know I'm trying to get Rage boosts off of this Clefairy, but do you know the interaction between Rage and Double Slap? Every slap gives us another attack boost.
What?
And I lied, there's a 4th cheap advantage. Clefairy has the move Mimic, which permanently copies a move I last used for the rest of the fight. I can get Clefairy to copy Roost, meaning it can heal itself off, guaranteeing that I can stall long enough to build all the way up to 6 Rage boosts, giving us a 4 times damage multiplier to use against Miltank. But you want to know what's wild about Miltank? It still doesn't go down in 1 hit, not even close. The second quick attack damage ranges, and I still don't knock it out.
What?
Luckily, Miltank just randomly decided to go with Rollout, which, despite being super effective, isn't nearly as strong as Stomp, and we're able to finish it off.
Voilà, chiate.
Is all that saved us there. Well, as I said, that's the end of the starting gauntlet. Things get a little more simple from here on out, mostly thanks to our own Pokemon starting to scale. The next Pokewalker route is the Beautiful Beach, which gives us a guaranteed water type or Sunkern. And thank goodness, it's a Slowpoke. Admittedly though,
Slowpoke c'est bien.
It's a much
Après
stronger
un axe sur
physical
le...
attacker
Un Marest, ça
until
aurait
it
été
evolves,
stylé
where it
aussi.
then
Hein.
becomes a special attacker.
Un bon petit
So I'm
Marest
going
là.
to have to plan out my moveset wells to make sure it's useful both before and after evolving. Also, it doesn't evolve until level 37, which is the 8th gym. And at that point,
8? Attends,
Slowking
37 c'est le
would have
8e
been preferable for
badge?
Superior Special Bull, but
Non.
I'm not allowing it. Irregardless, Slowpoke is some bull
C'est
that
pas-
our
c'est
team
pas possible.
desperately needs. Having the 3rd badge allows us to grab the squirt bottle and
C'est peut-être parce que
head on out.
maintenant
This
c'est beaucoup
trainer
plus haut les
here is
levels.
the first required battle on our
Mais
route
37 ça
since
me paraît...
this
Ouais,
youngster
ça me paraît...
before Violet City. Feel old yet? In the national park, turns out it's the bug catching competition day. A quick glance at the prizes tells me there's not really anything I want other than maybe the citrus berry. I skip it for now though. In the park itself, we grab the Quick Claw and the Soothe Bell, and then it's squirtin' time. I'm actually pretty lucky we got Slowpoke here. It's our only Pokemon not weak to rock-type moves at this point. And then we've made it to Ecruteak. We have one small detour. We need to release the Beast at Burn Tower. Thanks to a much higher level cap, we can take advantage of our first evolution of the run, which we'll need for yet another rival fight. It starts very much the same as last time, except now our Magby has the misspelled Feint attack to make use of, one-shotting the Ghastly. This once again baits in Croconaw, and just like last time, we counter-switched to Apothecary. I needed to evolve here because unbeknownst to me when I chose Cyndaquil, Croconaw here gets
il a Ice Fang.
coverage, and evolving puts me
fait très mal.
just out of crit range. After that though, it's the same
Imagine
strategy
il
as before,
était...
Sleep and Bully.
Il était
Our
gelé.
rival chooses
Ça aurait été,
not to swap
ça aurait
this
été
time.
vraiment le pire
Zubat
truc.
comes out, now rocking
Ça
a
aurait été le
nasty
pire truc.
wing attack, so we retreat to our newly nicknamed Doduo. Doduo finishes off the Zubat in 2 quick attacks, and I didn't bother going for any rage boosts because the last Pokemon is Magnemite. Magby only needs to resist 1 paralyzation before knocking it out with an Ember. Then we release the Beast. I'm pretty sure this is the only part of this plotline that's required for game completion, so I hope you don't like Suicune. It's Morty time. While I wouldn't consider this fight as hard as the previous few, it is important to make a plan for each Pokemon he has. For the Ghastly, it's as simple as outspeeding and knocking it out with a feint attack. Then comes out the ace, Gengar. This thing is packing Shadow Ball, and nobody wants to take a Shadow Ball from
Là,
that
je pense, ouais,
special
il
attack
se fait one shot.
set. Nobody except Doduo. The trick
Ah bah
for
oui,
Morty is that
il
if you
est
throw
normal.
out a normal type against his ace, it can't deal damage to you at all except with Sucker Punch, which not only requires you to use an attacking move, but it's also coming out of Gengar's much lower attack stat, not nearly as much of a threat. Even though it keeps putting me to sleep with Hypnosis, it can't touch me as long as I use Roost while I'm asleep, and it takes a while, but eventually I'm able to whittle it down using Pex.
Nice,
We're
nice.
not out of the woods yet. Next is one of the two Haunters. We can tell it's the Hypnosis Dream Eater set thanks to its level. First I let it put me to sleep, and then I swap, guaranteeing that it'll either use Dream Eater or Nightmare. Magby outspeeds it, but it barely lives the Feint Attack. We then
Oh,
get
ça c'est
lucky
chiant.
with Mist Hypnosis
Peut-être avec un
and
meilleur
finish it
rôle,
off.
il
Next
le
is
tue là-dessus.
Haunter number 2, much less of a threat. It starts out by using Curse, leaving it low enough to easily be finished off by Feint Attack. That's our 4th badge and the TM for Shadow Ball. Now I'd
Oh, ça
say
c'est
we're
pas mal.
about halfway there.
Shadow Ball, c'est
Halfway
vraiment
there.
stylé.
Halfway there.
Et-
Another badge, another Pokemon. This one's a big one. We're
Which
taking
one?
a stroll through the suburban area with 2 separate
Ah.
routes to get what I think would be the best encounter for this entire challenge,
Et liquide.
Magnemite. And I get
Magnemite.
Hoot Hoot.
Ah, ou
It's
tous ces pires
not
trucs.
as bad as you'd think. Having access to psychic type moves while not being weak to dark, and it serves a separate purpose from Doduo, being a special bulky option rather than a physical glass cannon. With our level cap all the way at 31 now, Hoot Hoot is allowed to evolve into Noctowl. We have 2 other evolutions available, but I'm leaving them just to make sure we don't over-level before the next gym battle. So Noctowl does have one pretty good niche. Having confusion but not being weak to the fairly common bite move makes it a perfect counter to pretty much
Okay.
every Team Rocket battle. Not that you really need a counter for them. Defeating this grunt in the dance theater gives us Surf, which
Easy,
goes
easy
right
comme on
on
dit.
to Slowpoke. Route 38 is pretty uneventful. On Route 39, though, we find the TM for Drain Punch, a mystery Mousecatool that can help us later. Entering Olivine City for the first time, we need to climb to the top of the lighthouse, made much easier thanks to Slowpoke resisting all the water types that are abundant here. Not to mention, Surf is just very strong. At the top, we're given the mission to get medicine from Cianwood, and we're good to go. Before we do, though, I grab the Charge Beam TM that can be found on the East Coast. Surfing through routes 40 and 41, once again, absolutely no required fights, but we do pick up the Pluck TM. Not much to do at Cianwood, we grab the medicine, then head straight into the gym fight. In preparation, Magby learns Fire Punch at level 30, and we finally get our
Le Magmar.
Then,
Le Magmar.
right at the level
Oh,
cap
et
of
Dodrio.
31,
Non.
Doduo is able to evolve into Dodrio.
Ah, si, Dodrio.
Now we're starting to look like a team. I also take this opportunity to teach Dodrio Pluck. For some reason, it still doesn't learn any other flying type moves up to this point, and every single gym leader carries a citrus berry on their ace, so this is a pretty consistent encounter. Now you'd think
Pas mal.
with 2 flying types and a psychic type, this fight would be free. Not so. I opt to lead with Slowpoke. This Primeape always starts off by building up double teams, so I start building my own stacks of Curse, hoping it'll allow me to stay in long enough to take Primeape out. I managed to land my first confusion as Primeape builds another double team. Yes, I'm running Quick Claw on my Slowpoke. Third turn is when Primeape starts attacking, and I'm flinched. Fourth turn, Quick Claw procs, but I miss. Fifth turn, another miss, and it's time to pivot. Dodrio can take a Rock Slide on the switch in and finish off Primeape with a Pluck. Don't ask me what my plan was if I missed. Next up is the Poliwrath, and I kick it off with an outspeeding Pluck. Pluck doesn't knock it out, but I do get to eat the Citrus Berry, which gives me just enough HP to live an attack. Usually, Poliwrath just spams Focus Punches, and I'm unlucky enough to get a Body Slam, but still lucky enough not to get paralyzed, which allows me to take the kill. I fully expected to have to make my first sacrifice.
Le
for this
Dodrio
fight,
qui
thanks to hacks, but
carry.
we made it through death.
Le Dodrio qui
Our prize
carry.
is the Fly Gem, which will be going to Noctowl. I know that sounds weird given Dodrio's our physical attacker, but I'm not willing to give up any of Dodrio's attack slots right now. And another Pokemon. I did actually have to go for a dedicated walk this time since the watt requirements for each routes are starting to ramp up. Also, bad news. I did the routes in the wrong order, which I think I'm allowed to do. I didn't make a rule against it, but I also didn't consider it in the first place. Anyways, that means we're skipping over to Blue Lake, another nice set of water types. I know you see that Dratini there, but it's actually not a good option, as we wouldn't get Dragonite before the Elite Four. And to counter that, I didn't walk the 5,000 steps it requires to encounter it, so it wasn't an option. And we ended up getting a Poliwag. As you probably know, Poliwag has a split evolution, but since there's no trades allowed, Again, we're limited to Poliwrath, which is complicated because this Poliwag is a modest nature. We'll deal with it though. Having a fighting type is worth it. Also, it has damp instead of water absorb, which is unfortunate. I waste no time evolving it into a Poliwhirl. So you'd think that we'd go right back now that we have the medicine and challenge Jasmine, right? Wrong. I do return the medicine, but then I have to head all the way over to Mahogany Town because Price actually has a lower level ace than Jasmine. It makes things easier to go for him first, and also I made all of the sidebars before I started the run, and I put his badge over Jasmine's, and I don't want to remake them, so we're stuck. Route 42 is a straight shot. On the way we get strength, and even though it is a pretty strong attack, I don't want to teach it to anyone because the move deleter is all the way in Blackthorn City, so if I taught it now, we'd be stuck with it for another 2 gyms. So this part of the game is really weird. After you beat Morty, this part of the map is the open-ended area of Johto, meaning you can fight these 3 gyms in whatever order, and as such, all of the gyms are very close in level, but even more odd, all of the regular battles are around level 10 to 20. The most challenging battle is the Wild
Donc tu te bats contre
Rage Lake, and when it comes to the Team Rocket hideout,
10 à 20, mais les dresseurs, les champions d'arène, ils sont 30.
Mostly because I have no idea if they have self-destruct or not, but they didn't use it, so I'll never find out. Now we can focus on the Ice Gym, with one issue. I need my Poliwrath. The fire type from Magmar isn't gonna cut it here. And so you may ask, how does one get the Water Stone in Heart Gold? Buy it from the department store? Find it laying around on a route? You wish. No, we have 7 rounds of the Pokeathlon to play.
Ça c'est trop bien, c'était le meilleur truc.
Stones other than the Sunstone behind this, but they're also locked to different days of the week. And they never tell you about the struggle of getting good Pokemon for the Pokeathlon. I have absolutely nothing for any category other than jump. Update your Nuzlocke guides. Even once I finally have the points to buy it, we have to get it on a Wednesday. Wild. Now we have our mixed attacker Poliwrath.
Pokéathlon, c'était le meilleur truc de l'univers.
Not only for this upcoming fight, but also for Karen in the Elite Four. Poliwrath with a higher special attack than attack is cursed. But now, to bring it home, we teach Poliwrath Drain Punch. What? That's wrong. I know it learns Drain Punch. In Generation 8 or later. Okay, cool. I guess I'll take the next best option, which is Rock Smash. Okay. I suppose that's not
Rock Smash, c'est
true.
un peu beaucoup, même beaucoup moins bien.
Ignoring that it's 70% accuracy, it also doesn't work alongside Belly Drum. And then you might say, oh, just teach it Brick Break. Well, don't you know, Brick Break's so strong that it had to be locked behind the Battle Frontier. So, Rock Smash. The strategy for Price is going to be similar to the early gym fights. I'll set up on the weaker lead Pokemon so that we can hopefully sweep the rest of the team. Seal's only attacking move here is Icy Wind, and it's more preoccupied with setting up Hail, so I don't even have to deal with the speed drop. At +6 attack, Seal goes down easily. Dugong is also outsped and knocked out with a single Rock Smash, and Piloswine does too. Oh, that's a little too close for comfort. I look for a pivot, but no one here takes both Ice and Ground type moves well, so I risk it. Luckily, the second Rock Smash hits its mark. That's
ouais, ça tue.
Rock
Smash, genre, je trouve c'est... Attends, ils ont pas justement baissé. Avant c'était ok, et maintenant c'est diminué. Oh, Onyx c'est pas mal, Machoke. Oh, ça va, ça va. Petit, ça va.
But Jinx doesn't get Psychic. It doesn't get Ice Beam either, but we can grab that from Voltorb Flip. So most of Jinx's utility will be from its Ice type. Great for Dragon types, except for one of them. Just like Magby, Smoochum evolves at level 30, so we have Jinx.
C'est pas mal, c'est pas mal, c'est pas mal.
No time for rest between the gym battles. We can
go c'est pas le pire, genre. C'est pas le pire.
It goes pretty much how you would expect a 7th gym that still has Magnemites to go. If we didn't have a fire type, this would go very differently, but level 30 Magnemites is something. Watson is the 3rd gym of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and has a Magneton, and Steelix is just way too frail on the special side to make up the difference. One last Pokemon, this last route is the town outskirts. There's a lot of great Pokemon here, even for it specifically in the upcoming gym. And we get Abra. Okay, once again, it's the rarest encounter, but I'm a little bummed with this one. It is our 3rd Psychic type, but you don't need me to tell you that even just Kadabra is a beast. The problem is, it has the defenses of a wet paper bag, so we need to keep her safe. Before the next gym, we have the last...
Kadabra, monsieur! À la Kazam. Attends, à la Kazam, faut pas l'échanger.
And this time, the
Je crois
rocket
pas, non.
bosses actually have decent teams. Petrol here
Ah,
has
peut-être.
a full team of 5 coughings and 1 wheezing, all of which either have self-destruct or explosion. I'm going off of my knowledge of how self-destruct works in Generation 3, where the lower their HP is, the higher chance they have to use self-destruct, but if they're at full HP, they really won't use it ever. Noctowl can knock out each coughing in 2 hits, and since it outspeeds, they don't get a chance to choose a move when they're at low HP, so no self-destruct. The Wheezing, on the other hand, does outspeed. It doesn't use explosion though, and we make it through. The second threat here is yet another rival fight. This time it'll be with Noctowl against this Golbat. Again, having a psychic type move user that isn't weak to bite is huge, allowing Noctowl to handily deal with Golbat. As predicted, the Magnemite comes out next, and I swap the Magnemite, who unfortunately takes a Thunder Wave. I was kind of hoping for it to see the kill with Spark. And now that we no longer outspeed, it then hits us with a Supersonic, and we're just completely shut out for the next 3 turns, unable to get
Para plus hypersonique pour la confusion, ça fait mal. Ça fait très très mal.
Poliwrath is the only other Pokemon I have capable of dealing with it. Luckily, it comes out on a Sonic Boom, and I can knock it out with a single Rock Smash. Oh yeah, modest nature. Surely I get through the full para. Yep. Next is Haunter. Its only attacking move is Shadow Ball, so Noctowl can come out, completely wall it, and confusion it to death. But Haunter decides to knock itself out first. Next is Sneasel, who has absolutely no good options against Poliwrath, even when we're paralyzed and below half HP. We get through the full para on the first turn to hit it with a Rock Smash, and even if we'd gotten paralyzed for 3 or 4 turns, we would have survived just fine. Then on to the big issue. Feraligatr. So
Alligator. Comment il fait pour le tuer?
But the rival starter here is only fully evolved if it was Totodile, since Croconaw does actually evolve at level 32. So, whoops. With Coriolanus paralyzed and weak, it won't be coming out again, so I send out a Body Slam to try and paralyze. No luck, but we do know that Feraligator's locked into Thrash now. Slowbro can come in on that completely safe. I use Zen Headbutt, get the Quick Claw proc, and the flinch, which may seem good, but it does mean that Feraligatr doesn't get confused from fatigue. And now it can start crunching. I need to do one last swap to not die. Henry VI can take a non-stab crunch and outspeed for the kill.
Okay.
It was very stressful. Nothing else in the swap segment is a challenge. The final boss of the section, Archer, can be scary, but Poliwrath completely counters his entire team. And we can finally start heading towards the next gym.
Hey.
Typhlosion will be our HM user to get through Ice Cave. Ice Cave itself is just a case of getting through all the puzzles. Once again, there's no required battles. Finally, we arrive in Blackthorn, the location of our final match.
Alors là, c'est quelle arène déjà? Je me souviens plus du tout de Earth Gold Fever, c'est insane. Ça fait tellement longtemps que je l'ai pas fait.
This decision is mostly decided by Claire's ace, Kingdra. Both Magmar and Noctowl don't contribute much, either by being one-shot or not having good attacking options. I finally decided it's time to put U-turn on Parasect. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get another Pokemon that would use it better, and it doesn't learn it. What are we doing? Looking into it, it seems like there's a no spider-shaped bug rule when it comes to learning U-turn. Ariados and Skorupi are the only 2 bug-type lines that don't learn it, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. And right after Drain Punch, which, by the way, both Jinx and Slowbro can learn, but not Poliwrath. Make it make sense. Well, Slowbro's getting Slack Off to stall even better than it already does.
Oh, Slack Off, c'est vrai que c'est bien.
Then teach it Charge Beam for one specific Pokemon. And last, we go to the Goldenrod Department Center on Saturday specifically to get the TM for Return. And that goes right on Dojo.
Retour. C'est vrai que Retour, ça va faire très mal. Avec le stab normal.
On Ice Beams alone, although every now and again, Parasect comes in for the Horse Season Seadras. And then, our biggest challenge yet. After 4 relatively safe gyms, we need to walk back in. To lead against our Gyarados, I have my Kadabra rocking Charge Beam. Coming out of our huge special attack stat and being 4 times effective, it's beautiful. Beautiful. And you die from that.
Comment ça?
Okay.
Comment ça?
Not even close to knocking out. And in retaliation, Prospero is deleted by a bite. One mistake. My safest swap is to Poliwrath, as Gyarados is healed back to full. Coriolanus is the only one that can bring it back down that I don't need later on in the fight. I'm hoping for body slam paralyzations and finally get it on the third, allowing me to outspeed and finish Gyarados off.
Ah ouais, ça c'est que le seum. Comment il tue pas avec le x4?
Aqua Tail and the other has Fire Blast, and unfortunately, there's no way to tell which is which. My guess is that this is the Fire Blast one, since no other Pokemon has a super effective move. So Poliwrath would probably just bait down the line, but I have no way of knowing for sure. I stay in hoping to get a paralyzation for a safe switch in, and I do.
Oh là là, il a le
the full para, so Jinx does take some damage switching in. From there, Jinx can knock it out with an Ice Beam. The next Dragonair comes out, and again, it's taken down with a single Ice Beam. So now, I'm still up by 5 by the time Kingdra comes out. This is the threat. I risk a crit to stay in and take out the Kingdra's Citrus Berry, and it just barely works out. Assuming it's going to go for another Hydro Pump as its highest damage move, I go into Parasect to absorb it with Dry Skin, and no, that's my bad. I thought Generation 4 prioritized high damage even during a kill move.
Dragon Pulse.
Send out another Spore, but I stay in and Parasect is gone. But swap out to any other Pokemon and they're going to be in one-shot range. The option I take here is to hope the AI chooses Hydro Pump, since a bug prevents Generation 4 AI from seeing that I have Dry Skin. No. 3 mistakes. Next is Slowbro's turn. It should be able to take at least 2 hits.
Aïe aïe aïe, il est dans la merde.
And I miss my first Zen Headbutt. Kingdra Dragon pulses, and indeed we stay safely above half HP, and I miss my second.
Oh là 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 là.
I have to change tactics. I start spamming Slack-Offs, hoping to wear out the rest of the Dragon Pulse PP. You might say I should have done this at full HP, because right now, at low HP, I'm risking crit. Here's the problem. I'm always risking crit. Kingdra has the ability Sniper, making critical hits deal 3 times damage instead of 2 times.
Non mais c'est quoi ça?
A critical hit from Kingdra one-shots my entire team at full HP. The PP stall does work. Kingdra is out of Dragon Pulses, forcing it to either Hydro Pump or Hyper Beam. I think it's already out.
Et le... Oh, le crit.
Whatever, dog.
Le crit sur le Hydro Pump.
Well, while Hydro Pump is the stronger move, it does at least have low accuracy. It shouldn't matter though, since Dodrio can come in, outspeed, and finish it off with Return. It's not Jover, I still have 5 Pokemon. What do you mean? Not enough friendship.
Attends, j'ai pas vu là. Le retour, il a pas tué? Oh.
So, Heart Gold gym leaders eventually get access to 2 healing items, something usually reserved for only the Elite 4 in other games. I never realized this shift, since the last 2 gym leaders were so weak that all of their Pokemon were knocked out in 1 hit. 5 mistakes.
Oh my god.
I need Kingdra to either miss Hydro Pump or choose Hyper Beam.
Oh my god.
It hits the Hydro Pump.
Non mais il est trop dans la merde.
Resort, Jinx also outspeeds and it can knock it out with Ice Beam. Jinx doesn't outspeed. 6 mistakes.
Mon dieu.
Even though Kingdra is out of both Dragon Pulse and Hydro Pump PP, it doesn't matter. No one will be able to follow up on this Hyper Beam. So, I don't want to just chalk it up to Hydro Pump hitting all 5 hits, getting Sniper crit, or getting the wrong encounters up to now. I want to study and find out what I did wrong that could have changed the outcome. I'm early on in this challenge, so if I want to make it through, I'm gonna have to get better. Here's everything I found. Number 1, I could have walked in circles for about 5 minutes, raising Dodrio's friendship, so this return would have killed, leaving us with 5 Pokemon for the Elite 4, which is doable. I also could have grabbed the Silk Scarf for 20% more damage, which also would have led to a kill. Number 2, I usually checked each route to see if there was any useful items, but there's one area that I was at for such a short time that I didn't check. Rage Lake. Here you can find the choice specs, locking you into your first chosen move but increasing your special attack by 50%. If I had given this to Kadabra, Charge Beam would have knocked out Gyarados, leaving Kadabra as another option to outspeed Kingdra.
Ah ouais, c'est vrai.
And a Choice Spec Psychic would have done around 80%, making it almost a guaranteed revenge kill. Number 3, I found this document, thanks to my Twitch chat, that gives me the exact stats for every important fight in this game. These documents are so hard to find for each game, by the way. And before this, I calced out that if Kingdra were to outspeed my Jinx, it would not only need a speed increasing nature, but need a very good speed IV, because my Jinx does not have a speed decreasing nature, and it has a speed IV of around 20. And indeed, The Kingdra had a speed increasing nature
Aïe, aïe, aïe.
and has 24 IVs in speed, allowing it to outspeed my Jinx by 1
Oh,
point.
par 1, c'est
I've been
vraiment le
stuck in
seul.
Generation 3 thinking mode where none of the gym leaders have any IVs, and that's clearly not the case here. If I had known this before the fact, I wouldn't have bet everything on Jinx outspeeding. And number 4, I simply sent out Parasect too early. If I had stalled with Slowbro first and then sent out Parasect, the AI's only option were to either heal me with Hydro Pump or waste a turn recharging from Hyper Beam, both of which would have allowed me to get the kill.
C'est vrai.
And beyond those, there were probably a lot more
Ah, mais
ways to win
il
that I
fallait
could
réfléchir, hein. Celle-là, elle était
4
compliquée.
strategies is enough for me. At this point, it'd be easy enough to say, oh well, let's move on to the next game and I'll come back later. But I have so much more knowledge now, and I've unlocked all of the Pokewalker routes, so I won't have to do nearly as much walking. Any subsequent runs after this will be a lot faster, so we go again.
Sympa. La vidéo, elle est sympa. La vidéo, elle est sympa. Elle est très sympa, même. Très, très, très sympa. Y'a pas. La 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 la. Pay to win, return. Ah, il joue avec son truc pay to win. Ça, c'est stylé aussi. C'est marrant à voir. Moi, je suis pas en pay to win. Hein. Moi, je suis en full free to play. J'ai un deck nul à chier, mais il est marrant. Attends, what? C'est quoi ça?
다양한 통증이 그 누구든 타이레놀이 케어합니다. 타이레놀 70주년.
Return NBA player into their nickname.
Today, I turn NBA players into their nicknames. In every challenge I complete, I get to unlock a new player. Starting with Victor Wembanyama, as you can see, he's now an alien, and my challenge for him is to get a block plus a fast break dunk. There he is, guys. We got Victor Wembanyama now as an alien, but before we attempt the block and then the fast break, I want to see what this guy can do. Ooh, a little step back right there. Wemby all the way, and the poster, no way!
Ouais.
That's insane! And look at the replay, man. Wemby's head is literally inside parts inside his body, but this is
Bizarre, c'est bizarre, c'est bizarre. Only mousquetaire. Oh, attends, par contre.
Today we're going to try and win with 5 Musketeers cycle. We're playing at 13,000 trophies with Minor and a 3 Musketeers rework and the new Musketeer, or I guess it feels like a new Musketeer, but it's exactly the same, and then Mirror as well to get another one. And the plan is I'm just going to be cycling Musketeers constantly the whole game. Minor on each side. It's just going to be a constant barrage of just consistent Musketeers, and that's how we're going to try and win the game. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to split the new muskets in the back, and then I'm going to go for Skelly's here to try and get some value out of this. And then we also have the Evolved Musketeer. I hope that takes out the Cannon Cart. That'll be clutch if it does. Let's freaking go. Alright, so we're playing the new Musketeers, and we're going to try and keep them alive. And we're going to try and just like play Minor every time and counter push, and make the one Musketeer a big threat, because he'll absolutely have to answer the 2. And then with the one, okay, that's perfect, because he's going to rely on that now. Yes, perfect. So he went for the Valkyrie there, and we're immediately going to get damage on the tower, and the arrows is not going to kill it. They would have killed the old ones, and I could just let that go. This is the thing. When they hit stuff with their fucking...
Oh, attends, il savait que là, la Valkyrie, elle mourait.
It's a bayonet. That's the one. When they hit it with that... Oh my god, I just realized I can mirror my log here as well. Love doing that. Alright, let's mirror my log. With the bayonet, which people were like, Ken definitely searched it up after he said it to make sure it was a bayonet. Okay, I don't do anything, alright? I just play Clash. Outside of making videos, I just play Clash. So... Anyway, we're going to go for a Musketeer in the back. The next one will be Evolved.
Lui, il est trop fort. Il est trop fort. À chaque fois, il fait des trucs. Tu te demandes comment il fait. Attends, Clash Royale. Royal, Bar, Barian, Only. Only. Parce que moi j'ai un deck un peu comme ça, avec que des barbares presque. 9000 trophées, 8 ans, can you win with only Barbarian?
Today we have a little treat for you. The Barb's only piece sitting down cycle straight from the clan chat, and we're
4. Ah ouais, moi non, c'est pas ça. J'ai le ça, et j'ai aussi les vignes.
In the top meta,
Mais j'ai pas les barbares d'élite.
is a top, not really, but you know what I mean. We're gonna get some fantastic little wins.
J'ai pas le barbare d'élite.
15,300 trophies. Let's get it going. Barb barrel off rip. So obviously air cards are gonna be our weakness. We just hope we don't play Lava Hound, and that's pretty much all we can do there. Let's go with some barbs here. Battle Ram over here, and we'll see what this guy's got to deal with us. Where are your skeletons?
Oh là là.
I want to see some skeletons so I can rage. Okay. Valkyrie Spear Hut. Ooh.
Il est dans la merde. La Valkyrie, ça tire très mal.
But we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Don't count me out yet, fellas. Do not count me out yet. And our barb should destroy that. Okay. So it's wall breakers with poison, Valkyrie. Gonna be a tough.
Il est un peu dans le mal là.
All we need is that one little connection and
mais
we
ok, je vois.
squeeze our barb.
Bon, on retourne sur du Pokémon quand même. On est là pour ça. Can I win tournament with only Blood Moon or Salena? Quoi? Rogue. C'est quoi Pokérogue? Attends. Pokémon Dark Souls, c'est comme ça, c'est Pokémon Souls. Like. Non, comment ça? C'est Pokérogue du coup le nom du truc? Ouais, j'ai perdu. Pokérogue? Pokérogue? C'est quoi le nom? Quelle reset? Alors, c'est quoi Pokérogue? Ouais, Timo! Il y était pas au début.
Yo les potes, c'est Red, j'espère que vous allez bien. Alors aujourd'hui, vidéo un petit peu spéciale. En ce moment, je stream beaucoup de Pokérogue et faut dire que je reçois beaucoup de questions tous les jours qui reviennent souvent en boucle. Et du coup, je me suis dit que ça pourrait être intéressant de faire une vidéo guide, répondre à tout ça une bonne fois pour toutes. Bon, évidemment, pour commencer, si vous ne connaissez pas Pokérogue, je vous redirige vers la première vidéo que j'ai fait à ce sujet. Comme ça, pas de problème. On va débuter par un truc très simple mais ultra important. Si vous êtes sur Chrome et que votre jeu lag énormément, c'est très important d'activer l'accélération graphique dans les paramètres. En parlant de réglage d'ailleurs, je rappelle qu'il en existe sur Pokérogue, dont la possibilité de mettre le jeu en français. Le jeu est toujours en cours de traduction à l'heure où je vous parle, donc ne vous inquiétez pas s'il reste pas mal d'anglais. Je vous montre mes réglages, je vous conseille de faire de même pour activer certains sprites notamment. Alors évidemment, la vitesse du jeu, c'est selon vos préférences. Je conseille également de jouer sur manette, c'est beaucoup plus instinctif et je pense que le jeu a été conçu bien plus comme ça que pour clavier. Une run de Pokérogue, c'est quoi? C'est un enchaînement de combats Pokémon. Tous les 10 combats, vous tomberez sur un boss et au bout de 200 combats, vous affrontez le boss final. Pour débuter, vous aurez besoin de choisir des Pokémon. Alors la question qu'on pose le plus souvent, c'est bien sûr avec quel starter commencer le jeu. Bon, évidemment, il en existe des bien meilleurs que d'autres.
Y'a Rondoudou!
Je suis sûr de vous donner les tout meilleurs sans vous spoil. Donc si vous voulez, je ferai une tier list des meilleurs starters en fin de vidéo. Les starters justement, ils valent chacun un certain nombre de points. Vous l'avez sûrement déjà remarqué, plus un Pokémon est puissant, plus il vaudra de points. Rien de très surprenant. Au début, vous n'avez accès qu'aux starters originels des jeux Pokémon. Pour avoir accès à tous les autres Pokémon, vous allez devoir les capturer. Le système de capture de Pokérogue est essentiel pour avancer dans le jeu. Quand vous capturez un Pokémon au cours d'une run, vous avez la possibilité de l'ajouter à votre équipe ou non. Quand vous le capturez, il possédera des IV, ses stats en gros, un talent et une nature qui seront réutilisables si vous le choisissez en tant que starter dans une de vos prochaines parties. Pour améliorer les IV d'un Pokémon, vous devez le capturer encore et encore, car votre starter prendra toujours le meilleur IV que vous ayez jamais capturé. Vous pourrez aussi choisir manuellement les attaques, talents, genre, forme et nature du starter selon ce que vous avez obtenu. Lors de la capture, vous gagnez aussi des bonbons qui ont un intérêt très particulier. Ils vous permettent soit de réduire le coût d'un Pokémon en tant que starter, soit de débloquer son passif. Parce que chaque Pokémon possède un passif, souvent très puissant, qui vient s'ajouter à son talent, mais forcément est très difficile d'accès. Par exemple, le Dracofeu possède Intimidation en tant que passif, mais pour le débloquer, vous avez besoin de 40 bonbons obtenables uniquement en capturant des Pokémon de cette famille. Alors la capture n'est pas le seul moyen de débloquer un starter, vous avez aussi le système de gacha. En fait, en avançant dans le jeu, vous allez obtenir des egg vouchers, et ces egg vouchers, ils permettent de faire tourner la roulette des œufs. Il en existe 3, et chacune a ses avantages. La première permet d'avoir plus de chances d'obtenir de bons egg moves, des attaques très puissantes dès le début du jeu, et la deuxième offre l'espoir de trouver plus rapidement un légendaire précis. Les œufs éclosent après un certain nombre de combats selon leur rareté. Il existe les œufs communs, rares, épiques, Manafi et légendaires. Alors pourquoi j'ai mis la troisième roulette de côté? Eh bien parce qu'elle concerne les Pokémon Shiny, une mécanique très spéciale de ce jeu. Si vous tombez sur un Pokémon Shiny, sachez qu'ils sont très puissants, car ils donnent plus de chances d'améliorer la rareté des objets après chaque combat. Plus vous êtes Shiny, plus votre chance augmente, et plus votre chance augmente, plus vos objets seront puissants. Il existe des Shiny plus ou moins rares, et chacun donne plus ou moins de chances, qui s'affichent en haut à droite de votre écran. C'est la raison pour laquelle la roulette des Shiny est souvent très appréciée. En parlant des objets, je rappelle qu'évidemment, ils disparaissent une fois que vous avez terminé une run. Il en existe énormément, et certains sont beaucoup plus puissants que d'autres. Le méga bracelet permet de méga évoluer, mais attention, vous devrez ensuite trouver les méga gemmes dont vous avez besoin. Pareil pour le bandeau Dynamax qui fonctionne uniquement sur les formes Gigamax et qui nécessite l'objet exclusif à chaque Pokémon. Le Terra Crystal fonctionne à peu près pareil, une fois de temps en temps vous aurez un type de Terra disponible dans le shop, mais qui ne durera que 10 tours. Petit tips, les super bonbons fonctionnent au-delà du level cap de chaque zone, et la plupart des objets se stackent sans limite particulière. Très souvent, les évolutions spéciales des Pokémon se font grâce à des objets dans le shop gratuit, donc ne paniquez pas si vous avez un magnéton. Plein d'objets très rares et très puissants sont disponibles, à vous les découvrir, mais n'oubliez pas que si vous n'êtes pas satisfait, vous avez le droit de reroll. Cela coûtera de plus en plus cher, donc faites
Est-ce que vous pensez que, genre, c'est possible de le finir avec des Pokémon nuls, genre, est-ce que je peux le faire avec mon doudou?
N'oubliez pas également que vous pouvez transférer vos objets à tout moment de la partie en cliquant sur transfert après un combat. Concernant les runs, n'oubliez pas que les boosts et debuffs de stats sont conservés tant que vous ne croisez pas de dresseur, boss ou que vous ne changez pas de zone. Si vous placez 4 dans Slam dès le premier combat, vous pouvez en théorie détruire tout l'étage sans problème si vous ne croisez personne. C'est le même fonctionnement pour les entrées hasard, donc les pièges de roc, toiles gluantes sont vraiment très forts dans le mode classique. Si vous avez des doutes concernant une évolution, une mécanique, n'hésitez pas à check le wiki de Pokérog qui est extrêmement complet. Impossible de faire un guide sans parler des boss. Alors évidemment les attaques de one shot ne fonctionnent pas vraiment dessus et leurs nombreuses barres de vie vont vous rendre la vie difficile. En gros, il faut comprendre qu'à moins de faire énormément de dégâts, vous allez devoir casser une barre de vie à la fois. C'est la raison pour laquelle des attaques comme Vampigraine, les statues ou autres petits chips sont aussi puissants. Si vous avez terminé le mode classique de Pokérog, il en existe d'autres. Le mode Endless vous permettra d'enchaîner les combats à l'infini avec une difficulté toujours plus croissante et la chance de croiser des légendaires plus facilement. Par contre, pas un seul dresseur à l'horizon. Une bonne manière de trouver les Pokémon qui vous manquent. Ensuite, le mode Daily est un mode qui est mis à jour, tous les jours, à 2h du matin. Dans ce mode, vous n'avez pas le choix de vos starters et le boss final est seulement à la wave 50. Ce mode proposera toujours la même suite de combats si vous ne changez pas de choix et permet donc de farmer les bonbons et offre même un egg voucher bonus. Plutôt rentable donc. Alors beaucoup de gens me demandent à quoi correspondent les Pokémon encadrés en violet dans les starters. En fait, chaque jour, des Pokémon au hasard sont atteints du Pokérus et gagneront 1,5 fois plus d'XP que les autres. Plutôt un bon coup si vous souhaitez aller plus loin dans vos runs. Une question qui revient souvent concerne également les lettres P et N, souvent inscrites à la fin d'une attaque ou d'un talent. En gros, P correspond à partiellement implémenté et donc signifie que l'attaque ne fonctionne pas totalement. Le N équivaut à non implémenté, donc là l'attaque ne marche tout simplement pas. Bon évidemment bientôt tous les talents et toutes les attaques fonctionneront, ce n'est qu'une question de temps. Il existe un système de fusion dans Pokérog. C'est très rare mais vous avez la possibilité de tomber sur le DNA Splicer qui a un fonctionnement assez spécial. Le premier Pokémon que vous choisirez donnera son premier type mais prendra le talent et second type du deuxième Pokémon. Le Pokémon aura la moyenne des stats cumulées et pourra être défusionné à tout moment. Si vous finissez le jeu avec un Pokémon fusionné, vous débloquez le mode Endless, spécial fusion. Et comme promis, je vais terminer cette vidéo avec une petite tier list des starters, mais surtout une liste de conseils que je pourrais donner à ceux qui galèrent un petit peu à finir Pokérog pour la première fois. Alors évidemment, cette liste de starters, elle est clairement subjective, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a plein de Pokémon qui peuvent marcher. Si vous êtes bon à Pokémon, vous allez vous en sortir dans tous les cas. Mais il y a clairement des starters qui fonctionnent beaucoup mieux que d'autres, et les 3 pour moi qui sont les plus intéressants dans le jeu, ce sont bien sûr Flamigator, Primarina et Florizarre. Alors pourquoi Flaminator? Parce que comme je l'ai dit dans la vidéo, se booster c'est très important dans le jeu. Et un Pokémon
vrai que son attaque
très bien tanké parce qu'il a de très bonnes défenses, il a un très bon double type et en plus son attaque signature lui permet de se booster avec champ flamboyant. Et bien ça fait que c'est un Pokémon vraiment excellent qui va vraiment vous servir et qui peut faire à la fois beaucoup de dégâts et encore une fois switch in assez facilement sur plein de Pokémon. Alors Primarina c'est un petit peu du spoil, mais disons que le type fée dans le jeu bien sûr va être plutôt puissant, hein, évidemment Oratoria qui a un type fée
Doudou, il est fait
parmi les starters et qui va pouvoir gérer certains fights. Il y a certains fights si vous avez un type fée qui vont être beaucoup plus simples évidemment. Et Florizarre, alors Florizarre c'est un petit peu particulier parce que évidemment il faut absolument la méga évolution, mais si vous avez la méga évolution sur Florizarre, que vous avez Vampigraine et que vous avez potentiellement Synthèse également, et bien autant vous dire que vous allez pouvoir quand même potentiellement solo certains boss intéressants clairement. Évidemment Vampigraine, Bluff, tous les chips, tous les statuts sont très très puissants dans le jeu, donc n'hésitez pas à en abuser, faut pas hésiter, ça fait partie bien sûr du jeu. Tous les autres starters que j'ai mis en dessous sont évidemment très puissants aussi, Gouplin avec sa vitesse, son double.
Ok. Attends. Je sais pas si je peux, mais du coup, non, je pourrais pas parce qu'il me faut plusieurs Pokémon.
From any generation to be on our initial team. And after some deliberation, I decided to choose Mudkip, Piplup, and Quaxly, mostly because of the great secondary typing that these three get in their final forms. So, with our wet type starters chosen, let's begin. Wave 1. Our first opponent is just a pathetic low-level Rattata. For the most part, this looks like a normal Pokemon battle screen, but there are two differences up here in the top right corner. The top number is the wave that we're currently on, and this here is the cash balance. Money is so important in this game, because, as you can see, after we quickly crush the Rattata with Pound, we're greeted with this item screen. Now, in case you've never played this game before, let me give you a little Pokerogue 101. Basically, after every wave, we can choose one of these three randomly generated items. In this case, a potion to heal our team, Pokeballs to catch more Pokemon, or a nugget to increase our cash. We can also use our money to buy as many of these healing items as we like, or to re-roll the three random items in hope of getting something better. However, remember, losing even a single battle will force me to start all over from the beginning, which means essentially the choice of item we take is all about balancing the need to keep our team healthy.
C'est bizarre quand même, Pokérogue. C'est bizarre. Du coup, je pourrais pas le faire seulement avec eux. Ah!
Pokemon has always been a series of games rife with opportunity for challenge runs. The popularity of Nuzlocke, Iron Man runs, and so many more proves that people love pushing the challenge of Pokemon battling as far as they can. So it's no surprise that a new contender has appeared to win the hearts of Pokemon battle fanatics across the world. I'm talking, of course, about Pokerogue. Pokerogue, for anyone who hasn't heard of it yet, is a Pokemon roguelike. This isn't a new concept. Projects like Pokemon Emerald Rogue have experimented with a roguelike spin on the Pokemon franchise before, but Pokerogue is an experience which refines its core gameplay to Pokemon battling and battling alone. No fluff, no nonsense. That's not to suggest that the experience is simplistic, however. An array of new items with unique buffs and effects.
Est-ce que tu peux le battre avec un seul Pokémon? Parce que du coup, on pourrait peut-être le faire avec Doudou.
Pokemon to use makes Pokerogue a whole lot of fun. It's no surprise that myself and so many others have been absorbed by its gameplay. And after I put in well over 50 hours just exploring all the different directions my runs could go, I knew I wanted to take on a challenge like no other. Pokerogue, like most roguelikes, is very challenging when you start out. A new player has access to starter Pokemon from generations 1 to 9, and can spend points up to 10 to add Pokemon to their starting team. Any Pokemon you catch will be added to your roster of starter Pokemon, which can be brought into future runs. Additionally, certain achievements or accomplishments in Classic mode will grant egg vouchers, which can be spent on a gacha machine for a chance of common, rare, epic, or legendary eggs. Eggs hatch into Pokemon, which will then be added to your starter pool, but they can also grant egg moves, often moves which that Pokemon doesn't have access to in the original games. While these are being updated pretty regularly at the moment, while the developers still find a balance, some of these can get pretty wild. Bitter Malice Fennekin, Power Up Punch Torchic, there are even some Pokemon with inaccessible moves, such as Iron Valiant with Magical Talk, or Squirtle with Bouncy Bubble. For a while there was even Bidoof with Surging Strikes, but that one has since been changed. Never forget what they took from you.
Ah ouais, attends. Si on peut le faire avec un Pokémon, après je pense que ça va être avec un bon Pokémon.
But as you progress in Pokerogue, the difficulty of Classic mode becomes less of a challenge, Access to legendary and paradox Pokemon, especially with such powerful moves, means that some runs can be blown wide open pretty quickly. And while they were still fun, I was looking for more of a challenge. So I embarked on the journey to beat Pokerogue with only one Pokemon.
Okay.
As always, let's lay down some ground rules. Rule number 1, I can only start with one Pokemon. And number 2, you'll never see this coming, no catching additional Pokemon.
Okay.
This means no pickup Pokemon, no extra Pokemon for double battles, and so on. Third, no Pokemon with a point cost of 6 or higher. Put simply, this means no Paradox Pokemon, no Legendaries, no Mythicals, no Ultra Beasts. Many of these Pokemon are standard for clearing Classic and Endless mode as the primary or sole carry, so I wanted to limit my pool of available Pokemon. And last but not least, no save sculling. Pokerogue is actually a browser game, which saves your run after every battle. This means that refreshing the webpage during a battle will restart the current battle from the beginning, allowing a player to scout an opponent or even bypass failure. With the rules of the challenge established, I faced an important decision. Which Pokemon would I ultimately choose to embark on this challenge with? This was a tough decision. In fact, prior to establishing the rules of the challenge, I attempted some solo runs with famously weak Pokemon, such as Bidoof or Hoppip, only to struggle to even get past the first few stages. Needless to say, many of the available starters would simply not be possible. If not for the challenges faced at the start of the run, then no doubt by the threats that lie in wait at the end. I would need to find a Pokemon with a good defensive typing, able to check many of the static Pokemon that would appear throughout the run, and access to strong moves to sweep through any other threats I might encounter. Those who have played, or perhaps even cleared Classic mode of Pokerogue will know exactly what threats I'm referring to. But for those who aren't in the know, the main types I was looking for included Ice, Steel, Psychic, and Fairy. Among my first ideas, one thought I had was Squirtle. My Squirtle had access to some fantastic egg moves in Bouncy Bubble, a water-type special move which heals the user and deals damage, as well as Ice Beam. Blastoise has access to both a Gigantamax form and a Mega Evolution as well. But ultimately, I opted against Squirtle as the best setup move it would have access to would be Shell Smash, which would lower my own defenses. It failed to check some threats I was worried about in the endgame, and although Blastoise had access to powerful forms, there wasn't any guarantee that I would find the necessary items, namely a Mega Bracelet or Dynamax Band. Another appealing choice was Mawile. Steel Fairy is one of the best defensive typings in the game, and an absolutely stellar choice against some of the late game threats. Not only that, Mega Mawile's incredible stats and ability would
en vrai, Mega Mawile, ça peut être
give me a
stylé.
real fighting chance. Though again, I opted against Mawile, this time because I was lacking any good egg moves to really solidify a build. But as I scrolled further down the list of generations, wondering where I might find that perfect starter Pokemon, it was in the list of Generation 9 that I found my answer, Tinkatink. Like Mawile, Tinkatink is a Fairy Steel type, making it capable of answering threats in the late game. I had the egg move Shift Gear unlocked, which gives +1 attack and +2 speed, making it a fantastic setup move for speed control and sweeping. Tinkatink also had access to its hidden ability, Pickpocket, as well as a fantastic passive ability. Passive abilities are abilities which can be unlocked in addition to a Pokemon's standard ability. In Tinkatink's case, this is huge power, an absolutely game-changing ability. At least it would have been if I actually had this unlocked. But as a silver lining, I happen to have a shiny Tinkatink as well. Shiny Pokemon in Pokerogue improve the odds of items improving in rarity, so this was a point in its favor as well. So, with my partner Pokemon chosen and my preparations finalized, I embarked on the journey to clear the 200 floors of grueling battles that awaited me in Pokerogue's Classic mode. Starting things off, let's talk about items. After each battle, you'll be offered a selection of items. These can be consumable items like potions and ethers, hold items such as berries, or more rare and exclusive items like vitamins, TMs, and so on. For now, let's quickly cover some of the main things I'll be looking for throughout the run. First up is the map. Of the 5 item tiers of Common, Great, Ultra, Rogue, and Master, the map isn't too rare, as it's only a Great tier item. What it does is it allows me to choose which biome I travel to at a crossroads, which will be essential as a poorly timed visit to a biome with fire or ground type Pokemon could spell defeat. Rogue tier items are also very powerful. These can include items like the Berry Pouch, which gives a chance to save berries after they're used, the Soldew, which boosts the effect of natures, the Shell Bell and Leftovers, which grant in-combat healing, and the Wildlands, which improves accuracy of moves by 5 for each stack. There are a few others in this tier, like the Grip Claw, Focus Band, and King's Rock, but the aforementioned are the items.
En vrai, Rondoudou il a écho.
Lastly, are the Master
Si je fais, j'ai écho. Si j'ai
The big ticket
Un
item
truc
here
pour
is
booster ma défense.
which makes attacks hit 1 additional time per stack. For the most part, the things I'll be picking up from reward screens will be berries, X items, and vitamins. But of course, this requires actually clearing battles, which Tinkertink doesn't have the easiest time with starting off. Many attempts struggled to get past the first couple of stages, as although steel typing kept me extra safe, my only offensive moves starting out were Astonish and Fairy Wind, but Metal Claw at level 8 would make this a bit easy. Fortunately, I didn't need to wait that long to get some new moves. I found a TM for Draining Kiss at floor 2. Tinkertink normally learns this at level 17, but this early on, it was a good upgrade over Fairy Wind, which allowed me to heal in combat, a huge boost to my early survivability. Then at floor 4, we had a huge pickup, a berry pouch. Berries, as you'll come to see soon enough, are very important in a solo challenge, often being the only way I can boost certain stats or heal large amounts of damage in combat. So getting a berry pouch to preserve some of my berries usage this early was massive. The first trainer at floor 5 posed little issue, but they did give another fantastic reward, a TM for Rock Slide. Double battles are particularly
Pas mal Rock Slide.
I've only got one Pokemon, but Rock Slide allows me to hit both combatants at once, which makes these much more manageable and helps me avoid unnecessary damage. As I approached floor 8, it was time to see what challenges would await throughout the run. This is where we meet our rival, Ivy. This battle against Ivy was where most of my attempts had been made.
Ouh, c'était pique,
Ivy
c'est chaud.
appears throughout the run, and while she's very friendly and chipper at the
Après,
moment,
s'il
that
a
might
une
not be the
attaque
case
roche
as we get
maintenant,
deeper
donc
into
il peut one shot.
At floor 8, Ivy's team has 2
C'est sol.
starter Pokemon and a regional bird. For this run to have a real shot, I was looking for one thing and one thing alone. No fire types and no ground types. Fire was obviously the big concern, since I effectively had to dodge a 1 in 3 chance from any of the primary starter Pokemon. Ground types, on the other hand,
Je sais même pas si c'est possible avec Rondo 2 du coup.
Fighting types would be a little scary as well, but only later on when Terastallization came into play and I lost the super effective advantage against fighting types.
대박. 이제 K-패스가 돼?
돼. 모바일 팀원이에서 K-패스도.
Si j'ai Draining Kiss avec un truc pour booster ma défense, un truc écho genre, écho ça peut être pas mal. Après il manquait d'autres trucs.
The second Pokemon, the regional bird, was a Fletchling. A fire and a ground type in her team was a bit of a dagger, but fortunately Rock Slide meant that I had a great answer to this. Hopefully that would continue to be the case later in the run. While my first battle with Ivy went smoothly, it was clear I'd have to keep my guard up against her team later on. After the 10th floor, our Pokemon is fully healed and we change biomes, taking us to a new area with a new encounter table. Stage 2, as I'll call it, went by without too much of anything noteworthy, with one exception. On floor 15, I found the map, just in time as well, as the first crossroads would be at floor 20. I take down a trainer at floor 18 with little problem, and I approach the end of stage 2. Floor 20 is the first floor where I can find a gym leader. The first can be found at either floor 20 with a 50% chance, or failing that at floor 30, with subsequent gym leaders appearing every 30 floors after the last. I was hopeful for a floor 20 gym leader, just so long as it wasn't Chili, the fire-type gym leader from Generation 5. Fortunately, greeting me at floor 20 was Scylla, the grass-type gym leader instead, who I swept aside after a few Sheffields. After the battle, I met with a choice of which biome to go to next. Of the 3 options, I chose the grassy field. The main reason for this was to avoid any problematic matchups. The Metropolis can lead to biomes featuring ground types, whereas the lake is full of water types who resist my steel-type attacks, and can lead to biomes such as the mountain or volcano. The grassy field keeps my encounter table limited to grass and poison types, who I have little trouble dealing with. In addition, the gym leaders you encounter are influenced by whatever biome you're in when they appear, so avoiding biomes that might have troublesome gym leaders to face was a priority as well. Floor 25 sees the return of Ivy, who has a team of 3 Pokemon this time around. Her Turtwig and Fletchling have evolved, and she's now added a Bouffalant to her team. While there was some fear of this new foe having fighting-type moves, I'm able to take care of her team once again with little issue, albeit thanks to a few lucky flinches. After the battle, Tinkertink evolves into Tinkertuff, and this is a good time to bring up the level cap. Pokerogue has
Il est pas encore en vrai, ouais, non, contre tout ça va être chaud. Parce que du coup, là, il évolue, du coup, ses stats, ils augmentent et tout.
You can exceed the level cap using rare candies, which can be obtained from the item reward screen. Stage 4 takes me to the tall grass biome, where more powerful grass-type Pokemon start to appear. It's here that we also start to see some more frequent threats appear, such as Ninetales. Fortunately, the rock slide TM I picked up means that I have a way of dealing with these pesky fire types. I find my first
Faudrait que j'essaye.
37 as well.
Faudrait que j'essaye quand même.
HP up. The Ninjask boss at floor 40 goes down without much problem, and I continue onwards to the forest. At floor 42, I finally learn Play Rough, my main fairy attack for the remainder of the run. Though with Play Rough and Rock Slide, I was flirting with 90% accuracy on 2 of my moves. While not a massive problem, I was desperately hoping to find a wide lens to help mitigate any poor luck I might encounter. But the excitement continued at floor 42, where my Pokemon finally evolved into Gigaton. This comes with the added benefit of learning Gigaton Hammer, an insane 160 base power steel type move. The drawback is that if the last used move was Gigaton Hammer, the attack fails. This is where my limited moveset started to become an issue as well. Of my 4 existing moves, I had a physical fairy attack, a rock attack, which served as my answer to double battles, a special fairy attack, which would heal me, and a setup move. Though it pained me to pass up on in-combat healing, Draining Kiss had to go to make room for Gigaton Hammer. I had a similar conundrum when I was offered Fake Out at floor 49, but ultimately, with only 4 moves to choose from, I had to choose what's essential over what would be nice to have. Bugsy awaited me at floor 50, but as his lead was a Shuckle, there was little stopping me from setting up several shift gears and sweeping through his team with my brand new moves. At the crossroad that followed, I was offered the choice of the jungle or meadow. I opted for the meadow, partly because I feared the jungle might feature more fire and fighting types than the name would suggest, and also because the meadow features primarily grass and fairy types, both of which I have a good matchup against. By this point, I was starting to amass a respectable stash of items. This was partly because I took every opportunity to pick up berries and hold items from my reward screen, but also because of the ability Pickpocket. Pickpocket gives me one of my opponent's held items if they hit me with a contact move, primarily physical attacks. Taking items from opponents is a common strategy in Pokemon. I tried to take advantage of Pickpocket whenever possible, sometimes even stalling turns if it meant the difference between stealing a valuable item or not. Ivy was back at floor 55. Now
55, il est quand même loin.
This is where I feared this attempt might join the others in the graveyard of failures. But after my first shift gear, Torterra hit back with a measly Razor Leaf. It seemed Ivy's Torterra hadn't learned a ground type move yet, so I took full advantage of this and set up as many shift gears as I could get away with. This time Ivy had also added a Duraludon to her team, but I landed a Play Rough to take it out as well as followed, bringing the 3rd rival battle to an end. I feared this might be the last of the easier rival battles, but I claimed a protein as my reward nevertheless. The rest of stage 6 went by without issue, the reason being that stat boosts and effects persist between battles in Pokemon. They only disappear if your Pokemon is recalled, such as before a trainer battle, or switched out. Stage 7 sees me returning to the Plains, the biome from stage 2. I was offered Rogue Balls at floor 63, but unfortunately these served little purpose to me. It's worth noting as well that you can re-roll item rewards. However, there's no guarantee that you'll get the same rarity of item unless you find what's called a lock capsule. And even then, re-rolling items is expensive when I have to rely on that money to buy healing items and efforts. I breezed through stage 7, though not before picking up a hard stone just before the boss, a type boosting hold item which strengthens my rock slide. Faced with the crossroads once again, I return to the tall grass biome for the same reason as before. Stage 8 gives me ample opportunity to stock up on berries. The next big threat in the back of my mind lies at floor 95, so I seek out every upgrade I can find before then. Trainer battles are a pleasant sight, as trainer Pokemon are much more likely to be holding berries or useful items, and give much more experience as well. I battle Erica at floor 80 and yoink a few berries where possible. I also grab X items when there are no better alternatives, though the X accuracy in particular is one I grab at most opportunities. Floor 84 is where I find the most exciting reward since the early berry pouch, a Soul Dew. The Soul Dew in Pokerogue boosts the effect of natures by 10%. My Tinkaton is Impish, which boosts defense at the cost of special attack, making the Soul Dew a free defensive boost at no extra cost. I then could have had a Golden Egg, a rare experience boosting item, the following floor, if I'd actually noticed the Ninjask holding it. And we're not done there. Floor 86 gives me a Reviver Seed, an item I can only have one of, but will revive me for 50% of my HP upon fainting. And then floor 87 offers me a Grip Claw, another hold item which gives a 10% chance to steal enemy items. While not as consistent as something like Pickpocket or a Pokemon with Pickup, I gladly take it. After a quick trainer battle and a boss located,
il a tout. Tu vois le Tinkaton en haut à gauche, il a tout.
My utmost priority is finding any extra held items, an X accuracy, and pushing my level as far as possible. Unfortunately, I don't find anything too remarkable. I grab a few berries and heal up before floor 95. the fourth rival battle with Ivy. At this point, it's clear to see that Ivy's string of losses is starting to get to her. Apparently, she's given up sleep and food to train her Pokemon, and she doesn't know whether to love me or hate me. As worrying as this is, I'm more worried about what new Pokemon I might have to face. She sends out her Torterra once more, this time Terrastalize, but I'm surprised when she switches it out for a Goldengo. Goldengo can be a tough nut to crack. Steel Ghost is a good typing that I don't have many answers to, and Make It Rain is a strong special move. Fortunately, I quickly noticed that Goldengo planned to spam Make It Rain much to its own detriment, debuffing its own special attack. I take as many hits as I can while setting up shift gears, before taking it down with Plate.
Okay.
I miss a Rock Slide against the Talonflame that follows, and for a moment I fear I've been complacent and thrown the run away. But I tank the Aerial Ace and sweep through the rest of her team. Her other new Pokemon was a Florges, which went down to a Gigaton Hammer, but now we were well and truly past the easier rival fights. It'll be 50 more floors until our next encounter with Ivy, and I've got a lot to prepare until then.
Ça va être
I'll
chaud.
tackle the rest of stage 10 and head back
Ah, je
to
pense
the
pas que je
meadow
pourrais le
for
faire avec
stage
mon deux
11.
doigts.
While we're here, let's quickly revisit that priority list as far as items go. For regular common items, I'm still grabbing rare candies, X accuracies, and berries as my top priority, particularly citrus and enigma berries. Citrus berries restore HP when I fall below half, whereas enigma berries restore HP if I'm hit by a super effective move, which would become incredibly important later on. Among rares, I nab vitamins and nuggets where possible, but it's among the higher tiers that my most wanted items are. These being type boosting items like the Metal Coat, Hardstone, and Fairy Feather in the Ultra tier, the Wide Lens, Leftovers, and Shell Bell in the Rogue tier, and the Multi Lens in the Master tier. Of these items, I'm still missing a Metal Coat, the Wide Lens, Leftovers, and the Shell Bell. And while I'm building up a stockpile of vitamins and berries, you can never truly have enough of these. At floor 110, I face off against Lenora, which goes about the same way most trainer battles tend to go. Lots of shift gear, and hoping that my sub 100 accuracy moves don't let me down. That brings us to stage 12, the beginning of my third loop from the plains. The wild Pokemon here don't pose
Tout le
much
monde.
threat to me
Après
anymore,
Tinkaton, c'est
so I quickly
vraiment,
hurry
ça
onwards
fait
to
vraiment
stage
mal.
13.
Blitzcrank is a champion that we knew from the beginning that we really wanted to have in our game.
We knew Blitz was going to be our first.
I managed to find a Zinc at floor 121, a welcome boost to Tinkaton's special defense. But at floor 123, an Ultra tier item upgrades not just to a Rogue tier, but a Master tier item, the Healing Charm. Of the Master items I could have received, this sits firmly in the middle. It's not useless to me like a Master Ball or Charm would have been, but it's not as game-breaking as something like the Multi-Lens. Nevertheless, bonus healing from my potions and berries is something I'll happily take. Stage 13 continues to deliver with another Soul Dew at floor 125, and I take down a scary Torterra at floor 130. Stage 14, the final stage before the next major threat, is back in the forest. I managed to pickpocket a Lucky Egg from a Lokix at floor 132, granting a nice boost to my experience gain. While not essential by any stretch, this means I can gain more levels before threatening mid-stage battles, like the rival and trainer battles. Floor 135 offers another Rogue tier reward as well, though unfortunately this time it's the Ability Charm, which is effectively useless to me. At floor 140 I encounter Brassius, Generation 9's Grass-type gym leader. He leads with an Amoonguss, but even in the sun there's little it can do to stop my setup. I yoink a few items in the process and run through his team with little trouble. Stage 15 is where my real next challenge awaits. If there's any point in the run before the final stage where I'll meet my end, it's a toss-up between this and stage 19. To prepare for the rival battle, I look for more berries and X items, but at floor 142 I find a game changer, a second berry pouch. Many hold items in Pokerogue can be stacked multiple times. In the case of the berry pouch, this means I now have a 50% chance to keep any berries I use.
Ah ouais, non, par contre 50%
This
c'est
is a
vraiment
huge
bon.
upgrade for longer battles, during which I may have to rely on berries to keep me healthy, so I nab it without hesitation. I find Ivy at floor 145, who won't even utter a word to me. Ivy isn't playing around anymore. She has a full team of 6 Pokemon, including one particularly infamous threat, a shiny Rayquaza. This Pokemon is one of 3 battles in the run for which I knew I would need a Fairy type. This Rayquaza will sweep through entire teams if you give it a chance. Fortunately, my battle with Ivy mirrored the previous one a lot. She switched her Torterra out for Goldengo and spammed Make It Rain, giving me the opportunity to reach a fully boosted +6 attack and speed. A Talonflame, Torterra, and Bouffalon went down in single hits, and the dreaded Rayquaza itself stood little chance against the tiniest little Titan that it's ever seen. It was a relief to get past this rival battle, not just because I'd managed to do so unscathed, but because now I knew what I would have to face later on. Ivy's full team was known to me now, and if her AI in this encounter had been anything to go by, it seemed she didn't have an answer for Tinkaton's impressive defensive typing. Nevertheless, I wasn't out of the woods yet. That would come at floor 150 when I went to the meadow.
150.
Yeah, that was bad, sorry. Stage 16 went by without anything of note, as most wild Pokemon went down to a single hit at this point. I was able to PP max all of my moves by floor 156, though at this point PP wasn't as much of an issue due to leopard berries and the berry pouches. I also nab a Carbos at floor 158, and floor 159 even offers me 2 rogue tier items. These are a Mega Bracelet, which I have no use for, and an Experience Charm, which doesn't benefit me once I hit the level cap. For stage 17, I went to the Fairy. While this was a diversion from my previous route, I was feeling confident about my strength, and wanted to ensure I had an easier matchup for the gym leader that awaited me at floor 170. At floor 163, I received my second Master Tier item of the run, an Egg Voucher Plus. I'm starting to realize that the Healing Charm was a better pickup than I gave it credit for. In fact, by this point, my items are in pretty good shape. I've got quite a few useful vitamins, plenty of Lum and Leper berries, a couple type boosting items, and a Reviver Seed as a last resort. But what I'm really after are more citrus and enigma berries, so I made finding more of these a priority as I proceed to floor 170, where the gym leader Valerie awaited me. She brings out her own Steel Fairy type in an effort to stop my setup, but I shrug off Marwile's attacks and steal some berries as I set up. Though I'm still finding frustrations with the accuracy of some of my moves, I managed to beat Valerie without too much issue. The Crossroads offered me the Ice Cave and the Stratosphere biomes next. The correct choice was Ice Cave, no doubt, which is why I absent-mindedly went to the Stratosphere. It's worth noting at this point that I wasn't looking up encounter tables, but where I presumed I would be met with more fairies, I primarily found Steel and Psychic type Pokemon. Fortunately, Shift Gear was still putting in a lot of work, and outside of a Claydol lowering my accuracy and burning through some Enigma berries, I didn't encounter too many problems. You might remember that I said stage 19 was another big hurdle in the run. The reason being that this is the penultimate area in the game, and the area in which you fight the Elite Four and Champion. These 5 trainers are based off of the main games, and you can encounter any region's roster. Of the options, the Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn Elite Four were those I had the best matchups against.
Okay.
The only major threats among them were Bruno, who I had a super effective attack against, and perhaps Steven, due to the possibility of seeing threats like Metagross or a Hoenn Legendary. The Unova, Alolan, and Blueberry Academy Elite Four were hit or miss. Trainers like Grimsley and Olivia wouldn't be a threat, but others such as Marshall, Hala, and Crispin could be problematic if I didn't have time to set up. And the worst matchups I could face were among the Sinnoh, Kalos, and Paldean Elite Four. For Sinnoh, Flint and Bertha hit 2 of my major weaknesses, and I had no super effective moves for most of Aaron and Lucian's teams. Among the Kalos Elite Four were Malva and Vikstrom, who heavily threatened my team or would take a long time to punch through respectively. And while the Paldean Elite Four had Hassel, a Dragon-type trainer I could sweep through with ease, I'd first have to survive against Rika and Poppy. I arrived at floor 182 to find Aaron, indicating that unfortunately for me, it would be the Sinnoh Elite Four standing in my way. Thankfully, Aaron himself wasn't too threatening. His switch on the first turn gave me time to set up shift gears, and he had little to break through the defensive prowess of Steel Fairy. I swept through his team and claimed a Mega Bracelet as my reward, which I only grabbed this time in the hopes of removing it from the pool of available items. Next up was Bertha, the first of the 2 major threats among the Sinnoh Elite Four. She led with a Steelix who immediately used Dig. Knowing I couldn't risk taking too many super effective hits due to how precious my Enigma berries were, I alternated between using Shift Gear and dealing damage to take Steelix down as soon as possible. Before I could take it out, Bertha swapped a Whiscash to take the blow, before sending in her Power Mode. One play rough sent it packing, but the Rhyperior that followed took 2 hits before going down. I finished off Steelix, and recognizing that I just ran out of citrus berries, I allowed her Gliscor to attack me so I could pickpocket another Enigma berry without consequence. Her last Pokemon, a Crocodile, went down to a play rough, and I moved on after a fair bit of healing and Now it was time for Flint. While he's notorious in Sinnoh for having very few actual fire types on his team, that isn't the case here. He leads with a Darmanitan, which I feel too threatened by to risk setting up. I land a lucky flinch with Rock Slide and take it out in 2 hits. Flareon comes out next, and I recognize an opportunity to use Shift Gear, but a Fire Spin quickly dissuades me from getting greedy. I set up one final Shift Gear on the Rapidash that follows, before running through his remaining Pokemon with Play Rough and Gigaton Hammer, at the cost of a few berries. Last up was Lucian, who didn't fare as well against me as his peers. Lucian didn't have anything on his team to interfere with my setup, so I spammed Shift Gear until my stats were maxed out. A Gallade with a Reviver Seed almost caught me off guard, but fortunately my defenses were solid enough to take the hit, and I ran through the rest of his team, even finding the time to yoink a few extra berries from Weird. With the Elite Four taken care of, it was up to Cynthia to see if she could best my Tinkerton. I took advantage of her lead's poor matchup to set up a shift gear, allowing me to take down Lucario. My Lotic was up next, who I presumed I could freely set up against, but after a Hydro Pump did over half my health, I quickly took it down. Fortunately, Cynthia had nothing left that could outspeed or threaten Tinkerton. Her Giratina went down with ease, and while Garchomp had a Reviver Seed and landed a Bulldoze, it was only enough to burn through a couple of
뭐뭐뭐뭐
타이레놀. 누군가의 두통은 이를 향한 열정이고
누군가의 감기.
With Cynthia's defeat, at last we've reached the end, the final stage, which the game thought was a fitting enough place to offer me a shiny charm.
Shiny
Here
charm.
I started to use my rerolls. I'd amassed plenty of money by this point, and I needed to find as many upgrades in the next 5 floors as possible. I begrudgingly picked up a Dynamax band in the hopes of thinning out the item pool a bit further, but as I reached floor 194, I still felt a little light on upgrades, though I was able to find a Soul Dew at the last moment. It was time for the final Ivy, the dreaded floor 195. As always, she led with her Torterra, and as I pressed shift gear, I was relieved that she seemingly still had no ground type moves. But this time, she switched to her Talonflame. I was reluctant to assume that Talonflame was also without a fire type move given this choice, so I took it down with the Rock Slide. Goldengo came out, and I knew this was the best chance I was going to get. I used shift gear as many times as I could get away with. This time I didn't have any citrus berries. Rather than let me KO it myself, Ivy's Goldengo used Memento to harshly lower my attack. Torterra came out afterwards, and after surviving a Gigaton hammer, little did I know this was a blessing in disguise. I had a number of stat boosting berries which I'd amassed throughout the run, and now I was at low enough HP to benefit from them. Every single one of my stats went up, and even with a scary play rough miss against Bouffalante, Tinkerton was too strong to be stopped. It even worked out in my favor, as Pickpocket allowed me to steal a citrus berry, which wasn't even consumed after one use. Ivy's Florges went down to a Rock Slide, and the final threat, a Mega Ray Quasar, went down to a single play rough. I'd beaten Ivy at her stride.
Mama!
Last, only one final obstacle remained. But first, I had 5 more floors to gather as many upgrades as I could, and I was determined to make the most of it. After taking down a Walking Wake at floor 196, I finally found one of the items I'd been searching for the entire run, a Wide Lens. My 90 accuracy moves were now 95 accuracy. A 1 in 10 chance of missing was now a 1 in 20, and if that weren't enough, I even found an X accuracy at floor 198. I would have no fear of missing crucial attacks. I just had to hope that I was strong enough. My final item reward, as ironic as it was, offered me a Master Ball, with no more money left to roll and no other useful items. It was at floor 200 where I found
Eternatus.
final boss of Poké Rogue.
Mais lui, je peux pas le battre avec Rondoudou.
And it was with this opponent's
Les poisons dragon.
Eternatus has 2 damaging moves, the Dragon type move Eterna Beam and Cross Poison, both of which Tinkerton is immune to. Eternatus couldn't so much as touch me.
But as anyone who has cleared Classic Mode before knows, this doesn't mean the final boss is without challenge.
I took the opportunity to set up a full +6 attack and speed, while Eternatus did the same with Cosmic Power and Dragon Dance, boosting its attack, speed, and defensive stats. After bringing Eternatus down to 1/4 HP, the true battle against Emax Eternatus.
Oh lol.
Previous form,
Oh non, c'est impossible de le gagner avec Rondoudou, ça.
Meaning I'm no longer invulnerable. Furthermore, Emax Eternatus is equipped with a mini black hole, an item which absorbs my items one by one each turn. It was a battle of attrition, and I had to hope that Eternatus didn't steal my vital items before I could try and take it down. Eternatus attacked with Flamethrower, but my stash of Enigma Berries and the fact that Eternatus hadn't boosted its special attack meant that I could out-heal all of the damage I was taking. I alternated between Gigaton Hammer and Play Rough to deal as much damage as possible, all while hoping I didn't fall victim to an unlucky critical hit. Just before I could remove the final shield on its health bar, Eternatus absorbed my Wide Lens. I hoped that the X accuracy would be enough to avoid any misses, and prayed that Eternatus didn't use the other new move it had at its disposal, Recover. I only had so many berries, and with my items being absorbed, I didn't have the endurance to survive a prolonged fight. I attacked again, and Eternatus responded with Flamethrower, and with one final Gigaton Hammer,
Oh là là, il a gagné. Il est monstrueux.
Successfully clearing Classic Mode with just one Pokemon. No legendaries, no mythicals, no Ultra Beasts. Just one little Titan with a very big hammer. Ultimately, this run was made possible by a lot of good fortune. The 2 berry pouches, the healing charm, Ivy's team throughout the run, lots of things had to come together to make this possible. But there are also a lot of things that could have made the run easier had I found some healing hold items or maybe even a multi-lens. And that's before even considering the fact that I did this without unlocking Tinkerton's huge power passive ability. But that's the beauty of roguelikes. Every run can look so different from the last, and a solo challenge in particular can be defined by whatever roller coaster ride RNG decides to send you on. Nevertheless, I'm stoked to have accomplished this challenge without relying on notoriously powerful Pokemon like Zacian or Mega Mawile. All that remained was to reflect and honor the fallen. I'll never forget you, Wildlands. I may have only had you for 4
Il est monstrueux.
You were made obsolete.
Je sais pas si c'est possible avec Rondodo du coup. Parce que Tinkaton en vrai, il est type acier, tu vois. Ah, c'est compliqué, hein. C'est compliqué, je sais pas si c'est possible. On verra la prochaine fois. Par contre, sur ce, le kit. Oh merde. Sur ce, moi je vais vous laisser là-dessus. Je vous dis, passez une bonne soirée. Passez une bonne journée. Oula. Ok, passez une bonne soirée, passez une bonne journée. Bisous, ciao.